1. Multitasking. There are times when it was absolutely necessary to include "have no problem with multitasking" in your CV. If you do it now, HR might consider you a liar, because long ago it was proved that multitasking is biologically impossible. Though we still try. Maybe just a bad habit. The cognitive bandwidth or mental space is the number of cognitive resources we have available for completing tasks, or simply the number of thoughts and memories we can hold in our minds at a given time. It is also our ability to pay attention, make good decisions, stick with our plans, and resist temptations. So, your brain really has to work extra hard to switch between multiple thoughts when you are trying to handle different tasks at once. Multitasking increases the stress hormone cortisol as well as the fight or flight hormone adrenaline, which can overstimulate your brain and cause mental fog or scrambled thinking. Maybe, next time try to set a timer for 10 minutes and commit to focusing on one task. Then allow yourself a little distraction and get back to the task for some extra time. In no time you'll see the benefits of the no multitasking approach and more things will be done. 2. Lack of hyperfocus. Our minds wander on average 47% of the day due to our brain's vulnerability to distraction. But by recognizing and being mindful of what's managing our attention and what tasks we can control, we can become more productive and do more in less time. There are 4 types of tasks: necessary work, unattractive yet productive; unnecessary work, unattractive and unproductive; distracting work, attractive yet unproductive; purposeful work, attractive and productive. The goal here is to become more deliberate about managing your attention and focusing on the purposeful and necessary work, and slowly focus on distracting and unnecessary work. 3. Information overload. The sheer volume of emails, social updates, and notifications we receive can be overwhelming. It takes a huge bite out of the day for many people. The constant stream of content, if not managed, can cause stress and lead to decision overload. Some people proudly boast of how many things they can juggle in a single day. In a research experiment, they found that being in a situation where you are trying to concentrate on a task and an email is sitting unread in your inbox can reduce your effective IQ by 10 points. To maximize your brain every day, use better tools and settings to filter information throughout the day. Be proactive about how you consume media. Prepare your brain to ignore unnecessary information. When you organize your day with these principles in mind, you will likely increase your brain's efficiency significantly. Even the most organized brain sometimes gets things mixed up. Relying entirely on your memory for accuracy, especially with a lot going on, is like playing with fire when it comes to staying productive. The more things we try to remember, the more risk there is of forgetting important pieces of the puzzle. A great deal of important information can slip through the cracks when we try to juggle too much, especially when it comes to details like times, dates, and schedules. The stress created by trying to remember too many details only exacerbates the problem, leading to increased frustration and a natural loss of personal productivity. Instead of trying to remember everything yourself, centralize all your facts and figures into one central second brain on your device with Evernote. Notes and Evernote all live in one place and can connect with other apps you use in your daily life. Capturing thoughts and filing them away quickly helps free up your mind to concentrate on more important things. 4. Neurotically checking social media. We're all victims of neurotically checking our social media feeds, especially when something newsworthy surfaces about things like the pandemic or troops overseas. Soon we're sucked into reading every response, which naturally leads to the formation of opinions and responses. Suddenly 30 minutes pass and we're behind schedule on whatever it is we're working on. The same happens if we posted something important to us or our business. We all naturally thrive for an immediate reaction from others, and social platforms quickly fulfill those needs. These are just bad habits, but tough ones to break. First, like emails, shut off all social notifications on any electronic device. Then reward yourself every few hours with checking social updates, but allocate the least amount of time as needed, and make that time lesser every time. For me, most of my social feeds are loaded with total nonsense and opinions with zero backing. Stuff I simply don't need. Break these habits and find extra clarity throughout the day. Also, since most of us check social media feeds on our phones, remember to install an app that tracks your on-phone time. You'd be surprised at how much time you waste. Take your weekly social and multiply it by 52. That's a lot of hours to be gawking at what people are saying about you or watching what others are doing. 5. Procrastination. I've been studying the roots of procrastination and how to overcome it for several years now. I've learned a lot of things, but the most revealing one by far has to do with how the human brain works. For example, when you eat a good piece of food, your brain starts to light up. It sends a signal to your brain of positive reinforcement. In the neurochemical form, this is known as dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter responsible for motivation. Dopamine signals to your brain this activity is good. Do more of it because it has highlighted that activity as beneficial to your survival. Dopamine helps you push through those long days and nights working on something that offers no short-term reward. Without dopamine, we would never do anything. People with Parkinson's have chronically low levels of dopamine because an area of their brain called the substantia nigra is damaged. If you know someone with Parkinson's, you'll notice they are very stiff. That's because dopamine helps control movement. Levodopa or L-dopa is used to help mitigate the symptoms of Parkinson. This is dopamine in medicinal form. Likewise, without dopamine, there would never be such a thing as addiction. Think about this. Every adult knows that smoking is bad for you. Despite this, there are millions of adults around the world who smoke regardless of the consequences. It's because they have a dopamine problem. They literally can't stop because they've wired their brain to seek out the reward, which is in this case, smoking. They've latched part of their motivation to buy and smoke cigarettes. When many smokers see a carton of cigarettes, smell tobacco, or even think of smoking, they get a rush. They get a rush of dopamine, a rush of motivation. Gotta smoke, I gotta smoke, I'm craving that buzz. Not surprisingly, dopamine is chemically similar to adrenaline. If you add an ethyl group, you get adrenaline. If you take it away, you get dopamine. The entire tobacco industry is built around the reward system in the human brain. Ponder that for a bit before you move on. The main reason why I personally believe a lot of people have a problem with procrastination is because of the prevalence of what I call red herrings in our society. These red herrings are more often than not low-hanging fruit that produces good feelings without offering any real, tangible reward. Our world is filled with so much stimulation that someone can spend their entire life being titillated but accomplish nothing of real value. Shooting blanks, essentially. What are some examples of red herrings? Social media, on-demand TV, foods high in sugar, salt, and fat, drugs of all kinds, gossip, video games. All of these things work on the reward circuitry in the brain to elicit good feelings. When you log onto social media, you get buzzed by the +1 of likes and comments. When you eat junk food, you feel satiated. You have no room for food with actual nutrients. When you play video games, you can spend hours and hours chasing imaginary rewards. Yeah, all of these things are fine, but people more often than not use them as a means to escape. Think of your motivation as money. You have a certain amount of motivation to spend per day. If you want to complete a big project that will stretch you, you need more motivation. If you spend your motivation all on things that don't help push your life forward, you have wasted that day's motivation. Come back tomorrow. Tomorrow comes. You do the same thing. As a result, you have now attached motivation to transitory pleasures. That is not good. That means when the time comes for the heavy lifting, the things that actually produce results, you can't do it. You've associated enjoyment with quick hits of stimulation. You feel great already. Why bother doing that thing just to get a reward for a job well done? This is part of the reason why I personally use very little social media. Too much mental space for such little reward. It's all too easy to create a life where you have done nothing but waste time. You will never see all the shows on Netflix, read all the information on the web, or get to the end of your news feed. So what do we have to do? We need to create boundaries. We have to limit these things. We have to put them in a box, or else they're going to take over. They're going to be like the weeds in the garden. Put a limit on how much time you spend on the internet, playing video games, or chasing imaginary rewards. Spend that time on actual things that will help you in the long run. No, you won't get that quick dopamine high, but think of it as an investment. You don't invest when you don't need it. You invest for when you will need it. There will be days when you are just tanked. Do you have a backlog of things that need to be done because you didn't invest the time and energy to do them? Or can you actually afford to rest because you've already put in the work? It takes self-discipline, and it's hard to practice self-discipline. But once you have it, once you have this background of self-control, you begin to become the master instead of the servant. At that point, you don't need external motivation. You are already internally motivated because you have a background of hard work and good habits in your arsenal. Cravings for junk food don't faze you. Being tired after work to go to the gym doesn't faze you. Not getting approval from others doesn't faze you. You become someone who is extremely hard to throw off their game. That's one way I've found to overcome laziness. I'm sure there are others, but we need to watch out for these red herrings and constantly ask ourselves, is what I'm doing now going to make me look back at the end of the day and think to myself that was a waste of time and energy? If it is, limit your time on it or remove it. You only get one shot at life. Don't spend it in an overstimulated haze of useless garbage.